Welcome to the fastest daf in town today, Masechtas Kiddushin Daf Nun Beis. We're going to begin on Nun Beis with Aleph, 4 lines from the top, Toshima. So we were learning whether or not Kiddushin, in which is not Moisel Labia, whether that's considered to be a Kiddushin. If it's impossible to be able to reach the level of Bia at the time of the Kiddushin, perhaps it's not good. So Tashma, the Tani Tav Yomi. So we learned by the name of Tav Yomi. So you have two guys. One guy has 5 sons, and the other one has 5 daughters. The Omer Achas one of your daughters should be married to one of my sons. Sounds nice. Now it doesn't seem very clear that anyone explained who was marrying who. So in this, the Gemara says, each one of these women needs 5 gittin. In other words, a get from each of these guys. Why? Says Rashi, She'en yadua ezen niskadsha. We have no idea who married who. And therefore, because there's this suffix, therefore 25 gittin are going to be written. 5 gittin per man given to each of the women 5 times. Now, what happens if meis echad mehem? What if one of them dies? So in that case, then because one of the brothers died, so therefore it's possible that that brother who died was actually the one who was married to one of these girls, and therefore there's a zika, there's a chiyuv of doing yibum or chalitza. So therefore, 4 will give a get, but chalitza echad, and chalitza will be done by one of them. Says Rashi, shema arusas hamesi, because maybe again what happened was the man who died was the one who actually was married. We don't know, but maybe that's the case. Everyone's in this case of suffix. So we said, well, why do we have to worry about this at all? It's a case of Kiddushin Shein Mesur Labia. So we end up always answering the same way to say, originally they knew, and then it became forgotten. So at the time of the Kiddushin, it was Kiddushin, which was Mesur Labia. But the problem is, it doesn't say that. It's explicitly saying that one of my sons will marry one of your daughters. But they didn't stipulate who was the son and who was the daughter. Which means clearly it's a case of Kiddushin She'en Mesur Labia, and therefore it's a Tiyufta Rava. It's a Kash on Rava, so indeed, Tiyufta. It's a Tiyufta on Rava, because l'chayr we see that Kiddushin She'en Mesur Labia still is a Kiddushin. And therefore, when we deal with this Machlokes Rabbi and Abaye, even though normally we will hold like Rava, there are 6 exceptions, namely Biyal Kigam. And this is a good trivia question. What are these cases of Yal Kigam? So in this, Rashi reminds us in the different places. First of all, as we will see soon in El Matzias and Bat Matzia, regarding the famous sugya that all kids know, Yishul Medas, when it comes to having a person who was miyayish, so a person who would typically give up hope, but was without knowledge, that's the Yud in Yal Kigam. The Eid Zaymim Abai Irma Mafrei who nifsal beparing zeh boirer. The Gemara in Sanhedrin discusses someone who is an Eid Zaymim. Do we say that they're puzzled, they're Eid Islam Mafrei, or is only Mekan Laba? Alechi Ha'amin Me'elav, which is Mesechnas Erevin, of course. If you have a lechi that's just standing by itself, in other words, wasn't constructed for that sake. And of course, our case of Kiddushin Shonim Sulabia, Bishmaisen, Gili Daita Begitin, which we saw not too long ago in Mesechtas Gittin. A person, there's an indicator, it appears that this person's giving a get. And then finally, Mumar Oichel Nevela Yisla Te'avain, regarding the dinim of someone who eats nevelos, but not lahachas, but rather l'teyavin. So the halacha is like Abai in all those 6 cases. Question 3. Mahi tiyuf de Rab the Yerm Kiddushin shel nimsu labi alei have Kiddushin. So we just saw that we said beferish lezecha mishabanim lezecha mishbanis the oimer, and this is what he says: echem lesecha mikudeshes echem mibanai. One of your kids will be married to my kid, to one of my kids, but we don't know. It was never mentioned, and therefore, because of that, the reason why we could possibly say it's good is because it must be because we hold, even though it was a Kiddushin shein misul labi, it's habi Kiddushin. Mas b'chamish nashim. So now let's go back to what we were talking about a couple blot ago. That we ended up discussing a story with 5 girls, and 2 of them were sisters. And we said, the Mishnah said, Ein achayos mikadeshas. The sisters rather, are not in the equation of Suffolk. So Amar Rav Shema min Mastis and Arba. V'naked Rabbi Yaditchlas. We can actually learn 4 different things from our Mishnah. However, we'll at least, according to Rav, he'll accept 3 of them. So what exactly is this talking about? So Shema min Mekadesh b'perish shvias mekadeshes. We see if a person is Mekadesh, a woman with the fruit of Shemitah, it works, says Rashi. We don't say it's not your money that you're zoich in it. Once you're zoich in it, you can do whatever you want with it. Don't say that you cannot be mekadesh an isha with it either, but rather what you need to do is it has to be consumed and it can be achal for eating and no other matter. So the din is no, you can be mekadesh a woman with perish shvius. So this is the chiddush. Question 4. Mekadesh perish shvius mekadeshes ma'al havamina deloi havi Kiddushin. 2 points in Rashi only. Hard question. So one pshat is we wouldn't say delal mamoina shel zeichenin who, it's not your money. Or we don't say that when it says l'achla, it's dafka v'lo acher. Ayin Rashi. So anyway, that's the first thing that we see from our Mishnah. Shema Mino. Second of all, kitcha begezel ein mikadeshes. Afil begezel dida. If you're mekadesh a woman with something which was stolen, it's not gezel. It's not good Kiddushin, even if you stole it from her. So says Rashi. Well, amrinan, we don't say midikablite achilte. The fact that she took it and she accepted it is proof that she was moichel the fact that he stole it. No. Mamai, how do we see this? It says it was theirs, but it was Shemitah. So what is that? What's the diak? Taima, the reason why it's a good Kiddushin, the Shvius, the Hefkerhu, is because it's ownerless. Now let's say he actually stole it from them, then lo, we wouldn't say it would work. Okay. Third of all, we learn Isha Nasa Shliach L'Chaverta. Afil B'Makam Shenasa Slotzara. A woman could be a shliach for her friend, even though she's going to become a co-wife at the same time. Says Rashi, V'aval Pi Shebechol Edusha Isha Kasherula In Hatzar Nemenes. We generally say that even certain times in which a woman is able to testify and give edus, but under certain circumstances, her co-wife cannot, because there is this tension between her and her co-wife, and therefore because of that we say that she cannot give edus. So therefore you would think that it wouldn't work. But since it says v'katani nachriyais mikudeshais, that the other girls are mikudesh, which means it's a tzara, it's like a co-wife, and it works. So is the 3. So v'idach mahi. So what's the 4th one? Kiddushin shein misul labia. The case of Kiddushin shein misul labia, because it says that the girls, the sisters, are discounted. So v'nichshava. So why doesn't Rav also include this in the category of Kiddushin shein misul labia is not good Kiddushin? So mishum de misafkele ika Abaye ika Rava, because he was in doubt how we paskin like Abaye or Rava. And Rashi says Davadi Kiddushin shel nimsul labia nami shamin mina. Maybe you could derive from there. Avul hayul faresh hey minaihu shema mina yihavi Kiddushin yiloy yihavi Kiddushin. But because we, even though it could be derived from our Mishnah, but we don't know, at least at that time, if we're going to hold like Abaye or Rava, even though we do paskin like Abaye, that maybe you could fit into the Mishnah. Kisalk Reb Zera. So when Reb Zera came up, Amar Laha Shmaisa, he said this sugya, that which he said before regarding a Kaddish woman with Gezel, that's not a Kiddushin, and he said this Kamed Rav Yochanan. He said this in Rav Yochanan. I'm like, Miyam Rav Hachi. Did Rav really say this? In other words, in the Hamamim, we think that he didn't. So he says, Vahu lo Amar, what do you mean? Rav Yochanan himself said it. Rav Yochanan, we see Rav Yochanan says, Gezel v'nestaishu abalim. If you stole something and the owners still haven't given up hope to get it back, Shneim en yochon lahaktish. Both of them do not have the ability to makdish this item. Zelafi shena shaloi. One because it's not you. One person because it's not his. Zelafi shena b'shusai. So we see that you cannot be mekadosh an isha with it either, right? You can't if it's Gezel. So what do you mean? Oh, does he really hold like this? Of course, that must be what he holds. It says, Beferish, even Rabbi Yochanan agrees that you cannot be Mekadosh with Gezel. So, Hachi Karmel, this is what he meant to say. Miyom Rav Kavasi, did he really hold like me? In other words, you're right. He does hold that it's not, you cannot be Mekadosh. But he didn't know that someone agreed to him. Okay. Meisvei. First off, so Kitchev Gezel. We're going to again focus on the word Gezel. If you're Mekadosh woman with something you stole, B'chamas, which is a forced payment, sounds like a lot like Hamas, which we're unfortunately dealing with in this day and age because of the terrible tragedy which occurred to the Jewish people on Simchas Torah in 2023. Uvegneva, Oshachatav Sel Miyada, you grabbed a coin from her hand, the Kitcha Mikudeshes. It says Beferish, it is a good Kiddushin. So what do you mean telling it's that if you're Mekadosh Begezel, it's not a good Kiddushin? No Hasa Begezel di da. This is referring to her. This is referring to her Gezel. Says Rashi, Kivan de Kablite Achilte. As we said before, that since she was Makabelit, so she was Moichel. So Hamid Atani Seif Oshachatav Sel Mishlah, they grabbed from her hands the Chadaresh Begezel the Almaskin. We're talking about Gezel in general. Now Prusha Kamafarsh. Actually, this has come to explain. Kitch Begezel B'chamas B'guneva Ketzad. What's that case? Kegayin Shachatav Sel Miyad of a Kitcha, by that you're Mekadosh her with that coin that you grabbed from her, and she took it back. So therefore, she was clearly Moichel. As we continue to Nun Beis and Mud Beis. But our Mishnah is talking about a case, it's her Gezel. So we made the diak that it's not a good Kiddushin. So our answer is yes, but it depends. Says Rashi. That which we said it's a good Kiddushin is if there was a Shidduch already, Mikmehach before this. And therefore, because they already had a close emotional connection, because of it, there was already a shidduch between them. It was already understood that they're going to probably get married. So therefore, even though he stole it from her, when he gave it back to her, she was Michael. But if there was no shidduch in that situation, the din would be that it would not work. Says question 5. Hamakadosh begezel di da imikadeshas. So the answer is very clear and clean. It depends. Bid shadach mikadeshas, but the loy shadach Eno Mikudeshas. Okay, and this actually was TA 19. We should not get too far ahead of ourselves. Hamakadosh prepares Shvius Mekadesh my Kamashman Bazeh. So we actually did see this. Doloi Tema Dola Maman who Odol Nemo Ochlovel Davaracher. So that's TA 19, which is exactly the same as question 4. Okay. And let's see, question TB20, which is the same question we just had on question 5, which just read it. Let's see, question 4. So it's pretty similar to the question we had before. This is TB 20. Okay. All right, let's continue then with the following story. Hahi Isasa. So there was this young woman. Dahavika mashvikara bim shichla, and she was basically washing her ankles, her feet, in this basin. Rashi says in a seifel, in a basket or some type of basin, demai of water. Also, who gav, a person came and chatav zuzi mechavre, grabbed coins from her hand, the shadalei, and threw it at her. And Armaleh, he said to her, mikadeshesli, marry me with this coin that I threw at you. So also who gav, made Rava, Armaleh the chashash ahad Rav Shimon. There's no one who has the concern of Rav Shimon. Let's hold off before we see what. Let's see the next line. That when it comes to any form of genzela, the owner automatically, you can assume, gave up hope, in which therefore means the guy now owns it, and therefore he's giving her something that's his. We don't hold like that, and therefore it's not going to be a good Kiddushin. Says Rashi. It's brought down in Seder Taharos, also in the Gemara in Perek HaGoizel and Baba Kama, Oireis Shel Ganav, regarding the hides that a Ganav stole, Ein Machshava Metamasan. So it says that one's Machshava will not be Mataman. The Shel Gazla Machshava Metamasan. However, when it comes to a Gazela, his Machshava will be Matamet. So there's a fundamental difference between Ganev and Gazela. Ganev is when you steal something privately, and Gazela when it's literally ripped out of someone's hands. The Ksaver Kivan di Yada Man Gazle, when it comes to Gazela, essentially you know who stole it, obviously because he forcibly grabbed it from you, Ayush Miyayish. He holds Stam Gazela Yishbalim, not when it comes to Geneva, but when it comes to Stam Gazelas Yishbalim. We don't hold like that. And therefore, the fact that he grabbed it out of her hands and gave it back to her, we don't say that he owned it, and therefore now he's Mekadosh with it. So it's not a good Kiddushin. However, another story. We have a story of a sharecropper or tenant farmer, the Kaddish b'moiza de moshche. There was Mekadosh, a woman with a handful of onions. Again, we don't find the most romantic people here. That's what Rashi says, Malo Yad Shel B'Tzolim. So again, a fistful of onions. Also, committed Rabbi Aimrulei Man Achalach, who is Moichel these onions. Says Rashi, Mi Mochel Chelko Shel Bal Habayis, which means that apparently it would not be a good Kiddushin. V'hanimili b'moiza. That's only if we're dealing with a handful. Avol Kisha, if it's a bundle, Rashi is a guda. Sheder chayer kol yois mischalik begudos. So chol gudos hein shavais. All of the bundles are the same amount. Matzi Ermele, he could say to her, Ana shakli Kisha. I took a bundle. Shakal at Kisha. You take a bundle. Kisha ki Kisha. A bundle like a bundle. Okay. Hahu sarsia de kadish bipruta de shichra. So there was this sarsia. Rashi says, he's a shecher, a person who made beer. Okay, and he made beer specifically from dates, and he took he was mekanisher bipruma de shichra, with Rashi's again is talking about this type of a beer. Also Marei de shichra, but it wasn't his. The owner of the beer came, Ashke, and found it. Amalei Milo Tesef Mahai Harifa. So he said, why don't you take from the leftover, from these better dates? These are higher quality dates. Now, which almost sounds like he said, oh, you did good. It's okay what you did. So the question is, was he saying it seriously or was he saying it facetiously? So also coming to Rava, Amrulei Amru Klach Eitzel Yafais. So in that situation, we say the din of Klach Eitzel Yafais. And therefore, but when do we say that is El Inyan Truma, Bilvad? We only say that when it comes to Truma, where someone would take off Trumas, we'll see, without the Das of the Balabayas, and he said, oh, why'd you do this? You could have done it in a better way. So in that situation, we say Klach Eitzel Yafais. But not in this situation, and therefore it's not going to work. Says Rashi, why don't you take Mahai Harifa? So again, he took Bepruzma de Shechor, which were leftover dates. Rashi says, after the beer was already made, so he took the leftover dates, and that's what he gave. I was a little bit confused where this Rashi was, because the Gemara says it's bepruma de shichra. The Rashi's gear says beprumza de shichra. Okay. There's a gears on the side. Okay, Rab going. So he said, oh, why don't you take from the sharper ones, the better ones? Shehu toy mechavero. There are better ones. Shalonostable mayim pamim harbi. There wasn't water put on so many times. Yeshul lachluchis. There's still moisture in these dates. Well, says oitam b'mayim acherim. It could give juice, good taste to other waters. So the question is, did he really mean it? So no, we don't say klachet yafos that he was sincere, except when it comes to the din of truma. Where do we see this? The Sanya. Ketzad amru tarim shlomadas trumasa truma. So what is the case? A person is tarim shlomadas. In other words, you took off someone else's truma and you didn't get the consent from the owner. How is it shaykh that it could still be good? So hari shiyarid l'tayich sadei chaveru. You went into your friend's field, v'likait, and you gathered up the foods, but tarim shel b'rshus. However, you'd end up taking up the truma without his consent. So im chayshish mishum gezel and trumasa truma. If we're concerned that this guy's a thief, then it's not going to work. The imlav trumasa truma. But if we are confident this guy is not a gazlan, then the Baal HaBayis will, in that case, feel confident and therefore say, okay, fine, it was a good truma. The question is, how do we know what's going on in the Baal HaBayis' mind, that he actually believes this guy, or that he doesn't believe him because he's chayshish, he's a gazlan? So Hari Shabbat Baal HaBayis, he went to the Baal HaBayis, so Matzu, and he found him. And he says, why did you take off this truma? You should have taken off better truma. It should have been better. So the question is, im nimsu yafois mehen. This is the mindset. If there actually was something better than trumasa truma, because actually what he was saying was that I'm being sincere. You should have given something better. So therefore, the fact that you didn't, but the fact that he said, oh, you should have done it, means that he trusts this guy. And therefore, it's a good truma. The imlav in truma. However, if we investigate and see there is nothing better, so when he was saying klachet yafos, he was being sarcastic, as though to say, "Why did you do this? Why did you take the best?" And therefore, it would not work. Now, hayu habalim malaktim omoisifin. Let's say you have the baal that's gathering up, and this guy's moisif. In other words, they're kind of doing everything together. The fact that he's around during this process, we say it's a good truma no matter what. Now that's the only time we say klachet yafois is daf when it comes to truma. Over here, the reason why this person said klachet yafois, right? Or the person said, oh, you should have taken why'd you give the leftover dates? You should have given much higher quality dates. So in that situation, he just said it because he was embarrassed about the whole situation. But really, he did not mean it that it was proper, and therefore he should not have been mekadosh with these things, and therefore, since he did it, it is not a good Kiddushin. Okay. Let's just take a peek over here. Okay. Let's see the next Mishnah. It says Masisna, HaMakadesh B'chelkoi. A person is mekadosh a woman with his portion. Says Rashi, Shecholok im echav hakohanim. So you're kohen, and one of your brethren, just like you, get certain portions of food. So you're mekadosh a woman with it. The din is, ben kachi kadashim, ben kadashim kalim in mekadeshas. It doesn't matter if you gave her something which is kachi kadashim, like from a chatas, or you gave from Kadashim Kalim, like a Shlomim. Either way, it's not a good Kiddushin. You don't have the right to do this, and it's not really yours, even though you can eat it. We'll see why. So, but Meiser Sheni, how when it comes to Meiser Sheni? Now, Meiser Sheni is interesting because on years 1, 2, 4, and 5, 10% of your produce is brought to your Shleim, and you're the one that eats it. So the question is, are you able to Mekadosh a woman with Meiser Sheni? So, Bein Shagi, Bein Mezid, Lo Kiddush di Rameir. Rameir says you can never use Meiser Sheni. It doesn't make any difference if you did it b'shogi or b'mezid. It will not work. Why? So Rashi says, and we'll see this the Farish in the Gemara, T'ksav Rameir Meiser Mammon Gavohu. He holds that Meiser Sheni is Mammon Gavohu. It's not yours. It's Hashem's. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shoigeg lo Kiddush B'mezid Kiddush. If you b'mezid gave her Meiser Sheni, it will work because Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with Rameir, and he holds that Meiser Sheni is actually Mamon Hedyot. Now, why B'shogeg is a Kiddushin, that we'll discuss in the Gemara. Okay, it's interesting. The language of the Rashis are out of order from the order of the Mishnah. Uvehektish b'mezid, uvehektish b'mezid kiddush b'shogeg kiddush de Rameir. So when it comes to the dinim of hektish, again, if you would use it b'mezid, then to be mekadosh woman, it would work. B'shogeg not. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shogeg kiddush b'mezid kiddush. So actually we have the machlokas when it comes to hektish, whether shogeg works or mezid works, and again that machlokas we will see soon. It says the Gemara. Name a mastis hadol Rabbi Yossi Glili. Well, Chayra Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yossi Glili. The Sanya Momo Ba'Hashem, you cause a treachery to God. Rabbis Kadashim Kalam Shehin Mamoina to Rabbi Yossi Glili. So he says that there's an inyan potentially of have over Me'ila, also my Kadashim Kalam. But he says that Kadashim Kalam is yours. It's Mammon Shlo. Mammon Kadashim Kalam Mammon Balim, as it rhymes. So L'chaira, if it's Mammon Balim, so you should be able to have a Kaddish an issue with it. So why does our Mishnah say not? So if you tell Rabbi Yossi Glili Kikam, Rabbi Yossi Glili Machayim. The only time we would say this din is if it's alive. Of Lachar Shchita Lo. But not after shechting. My time, kazachu mishulchin gabo kazachu. Famous line that while you the kohen have the opportunity to eat it after it's already been shechted and it's all been prepared, at this table, this is God's table. You're eating at God's table, and therefore it's not yours. God's inviting you to eat as a guest at His table, and therefore it's not your food to be mekadosh nisha with it, even according to him. It says you're mekadosh bechelkoi. Chelko means a chelik, a portion. Now what does that mean? Obviously, that's referring to it's already been divided up, right? So obviously that must be the case, and we're not referring to while it is machayim. Tanrabama. La'acha petiraso sherameir. After the passing of Rameir, Rabbi Yehuda l'talmidav, Rabbi Yehuda said to his students, Al yichansu talmidi Rameir l'kan. Do not allow Rameir's students to come in here. Nemnei shekant ranim him, because they're instigators. Lo limud Torah heim boim, not come to learn Torah ella lekapcheni b'halachas heim boim. They're coming to cut me off with halachas. So dochuk sumchas v'nichnas. One of Rameir's famous students, Sumchas, pushed himself in because he was not given permission. He was told not to let them in, but Sumchas pushed himself in. He entered. This is what my teacher Rameir said. You're mekadosh a woman with this portion, being kadashim kadshim, being kadashim kalim, lu kiddush, which again sounds beferish like our Mishnah. Cost Rabbi Yehuda lame. So Rabbi Yehuda got upset. I told you. Don't let his students in here. They're instigators. Not here to learn Torah. They're coming just to contradict me and cause problems. What exactly is this talking about? You're mekadosh a woman, so he's bringing this whole thing up. What are you talking about? How's it shaykh that this woman is going to be in the Azara? She's not allowed in that place. Because Rashi, the Tani Kadashim, Kachi Kadashim. We're not talking about Kadashim Kalim. If Kadashim Kadashi Kadshim leave the Azara, they feel Ezras Nashim. Even if that animal, if the chelik goes into the Ezras Nashim, him nisom liyaitzi. There's an Isser Yaitzi. It cannot leave these designated areas. But Nashim ein nichnasai sla, and a woman's not allowed to enter in those areas. So it's not shaykh to be a mekadosh a woman with this anyway. So why would he say this? So Rabbi Yossi, Amar Meir Shachav. Rabbi Meir died. Yehuda Kais. Yehuda's upset. Yossi Shasak. Should I, Rabbi Yossi, be silent? Divri Torah, what will happen to Torah? So understand. Okay, fine. Let's say she's not there, but her father could have been makabel the Kiddushin on her behalf, or she could have appointed a shliach to be makabel the Kiddushin on her behalf. So it's still shaykh that it could have happened. Furthermore, very interesting. What if she pushed herself in, then and into the area where she wasn't supposed to go? What would be the din? Now, why does it say dachak v'nichnas? It's very interesting because that's exactly how sumchus. So it's a dachak v'nichnas. Dachak sumchus v'nichnas. He entered in to a place he wasn't supposed to go. So therefore, this is the ha'ara that obviously this would be the answer. The sumchus himself pushed in, perhaps to allude to this answer. Tanya Yehuda Oimer Mikudeshes, Rabbi Yosef and Mikudeshes. So again, when Rabbi Yehuda says Mikudeshes, that's clearly against our Mishnah. Rabbi Yosef is in Mikudeshes. They both apparently are based on the same pasuk. It says L'cha Mikodesh HaKadoshim Mina Eish, and it says from the fire. Rabbi Yehuda Savar L'cha L'chol Sarachecha. It says L'cha for all of your needs. It says Rashi Yafil Kadosh Boisha. Rabbi Yossi said, no, k'eish, it's like fire. Ma'eish lachila, afhu nami lachila, says Rashi. K'eish, chelko shel Aharon, chushva chelko shel mizbeach. Ma mizbeach achila, it's burnt on the mizbeach. Av koin lachila, v'lo davar acher. The whole purpose of it is dafka for the koin to eat it, but he cannot do anything else with it. Okay, we're going to stop here. We'll take a question 6. So if you hold l'cha, that's a whole sarachecha for all your needs. If it's eish, it's just like on the mizbech that it's supposed to be consumed completely. So too, when it comes to the kohen, when for his consumption, it's dafka for eating. V'lo davar acher. Ad kan.